Hello. Once again, I come before you as a representative of the Illuminati. You may call me the Man. Well, this week's topic comes to us from several viewers, actually, and it took a while to do some research into this because it turned out to be a little bit trickier than I thought. The effect that we're going to be talking about today is, of course, if you've read the description, the Mandela Effect. Now, this is not the effect that Nelson Mandela had on South Africa, ending many decades of apartheid and then, of course, setting up a whole government devoted to restoration. No, this is not that effect. No, it's something much weirder. Apparently, it goes back to somebody made a comment in DragonCon about a decade ago that they believed that they remembered back in the mid-'80s that Nelson Mandela had died in a South African prison, and somebody else went, yeah, I think that's actually what I remember. Newspaper clippings and maybe funeral processions and stuff, and so on and so forth. And so people were like, well, maybe, instead of people just having horrible memories or misremembering things, maybe he did die in a parallel world, or we were now living in a parallel world in which he didn't die, but whoever remembered that was from a world where he did die, and then suddenly they got transferred into this world, although the mechanism of that transfer has never yet been established. But people started looking for weird and unusual things, and so they went to the children's book, the Berenstain Bears, and when you hear Berenstain Bears, and of course the first thing you come to is the Steen, Berenstain. People a lot more familiar with Barenstain. No, they're not much familiar with that. It's EIN for most people, and so Berenstain Bears, it must be spelled EIN. Everybody knows that. And then of course you look at the books, and the people who actually created the Berenstain Bears spelled it AIN. So it's a completely different thing than what people thought. And so suddenly it's like, oh, well, maybe that's a second one, or the famous quote, Luke, I am your father. Luke, anyway, Star Wars, right? Of course, that's not exactly what Darth Vader tells Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. And if you haven't seen it, spoilers, but it's been quite a while, so I'm not guessing you're going to see it if you haven't so far. But anyway, he says, no, I am your father. And of course, that makes sense inside the movie, but not so much as a quote. And that's actually kind of what's going on with most of this stuff. There was an example of mirror, mirror on the wall, which actually the quote is magic mirror on the wall. Now, that makes sense in the movie. It makes more sense, and it's a much better quote when you're telling somebody back and forth, mirror, mirror on the wall. It's a catchier thing, and so that's what most of this stuff is. And in fact, I was ready to dismiss all of it. It was like, well, people's memories are horrible. People are very creative. Like the Jaws quote, we're going to need a bigger boat. Well, he didn't really say that. He said, you're going to need a bigger boat, because he's talking to the captain of the ship, Quint. He said, you're going to need a bigger boat after he sees a shark. That's just the way it is. But it's not like he could get off that boat and go to a bigger boat, so it turns into we're going to need a bigger boat when somebody's telling you about it. It makes more sense. He's on that boat too, and they were going to need a bigger boat. If you saw the boat after Jaws got a hold, once again, spoilers, shark sinks the boat. But that was a long time ago. If you haven't seen it by now, you're probably not going to see it. So anyway, yeah. So the boat sank. So they did need a bigger boat, but still they managed to kill the shark in the end with a well-placed, aimed shot into a compressed air tank that I believe the Mythbusters claimed would never kill a shark. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The quote is what's important. We're going to need a bigger boat. Things like that. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Luke, I am your father. Now, if you're not in the movie, it makes more sense in the movie. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No, I am your father. That makes more sense in the movie. But if you're saying it to somebody else, Luke, I am your father, it kind of ties you to that Star Wars thing, because you know who Luke is, and I am your father. You know exactly what the guy's doing. Even if he doesn't have a James Earl Jones voice, which I don't, that's what's going on. It broadcasts and conveys that whole area of what this movie is about to the next person. And human beings are creative that way. When something catches on like that, that misremembered quote will take off. I personally, back in the 60s, I'm a lot older than up here. Back in the 60s, when I was going to Creedence Clearwater Revival concerts, I could have sworn that they were singing "There's a Bathroom on the Right," and it could have been because I really, really needed a bathroom at many of those concerts, there was a lot of imbibing of beverages, but it could have been that, but it's actually, there's a bad moon on the rise. It's a completely different thing. But the way they sang it, and speakers at the time, there's a bathroom on the right. That's what I needed. So anyway, like I said, I was about to discount the whole thing except for two startling coincidences. One, we were actually at that DragonCon. That's a weird thing. Longtime viewers of this channel will know that we hold sometimes the Illuminati Con inside a larger convention so that our Illuminati brethren can get together and come together and our special guests, and we have a good time and dress in costumes and stuff like that to blend in with the rest of the geeks and everybody else that's going on, because we're geeks too. Hello, you don't take on a project like saving the entire world if you don't have a little bit of geek in you. So yeah, we try to blend with our brothers and sisters of geekdom, and then we also get together and we share what we're going to happen and just blow off some steam. I mean, Laney, after all, dragging him out of that computer room is a tough thing to do. You stick him in costume, he comes out voluntarily. So that's kind of stuff like that. You got to do that kind of thing. So we all do that. And so that year, we were actually in DragonCon as IlluminatiCon inside a smaller thing. And nobody knew we were there really. And he decided he wasn't invited, didn't know we were there. But everybody else had a great time and stuff. We were there when that idea appeared. And that's coincidental, because now I'm talking about it over a decade later, and it's just kind of like, well, that's weird. It's just weird. Sometimes things that happen that are weird. And that was one. And number two is even weirder. You see, there actually are parallel Earths, and we're in contact with all of them. I mean, there's only 1,622. If you count the ones that are, only in existence when you directly observe them. There's like 6 or 7 of those guys. You have to actually be watching them from the outside before they actually exist. But anyway, it's a whole quantum foam. Anyway, yeah. You would think there might be an infinite number. No. It turns out most of them don't exist. They come into being and they disappear, and their whole universe is gone and whatever. And it only applies to this particular dimension that we live in. Of course, you know about the outer dimensions where Thor and Queen of England kind of battle back and forth as to who controls what. But no, this is just our dimension. There are parallel Earths in our dimension. 1,622. We're in contact with all of them. Any given time, it could be, different. Like I said, we went through a period a couple of months ago where there are only 522. We don't know where the rest of them went, but they pop back into existence, and there they are. Ours seems to be kind of stable, and then it kind of gets more unstable the further out you go. And so it's kind of weird that way. But anyway, I'm getting off track. 1,622, we're in contact with all of them. And the weirdest thing is, on none of these Earths did Nelson Mandela die in a South African prison. None of them. So not only is the person who thought this was happening misremembering what actually happened, not only did she come up with the idea that maybe she's traveling through parallel Earths or something like that. No. It never happened, ever, on any Earth whatsoever. 1,622 times Nelson Mandela got out of prison in South Africa. 2 really weird coincidences. So, anyway, that's what we have to say about that. That's the official line. We will, of course, be checking on it as, periodically other universes pop into and out of existence. Maybe there's a universe where Nelson Mandela died in a prison. Maybe we'll find out about it. But yeah, currently, nope, didn't happen. That's so weird. It's just like, wow. So yeah, memory, better quotes. Okay, that's all of it. Of course, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And when you think about memory, sometimes you get a little stressed out. You misremember the past, or you dwell on something in the past that didn't exactly happen the way that you thought they may have happened, and so, you get like a bad impression of it. Sometimes things happened exactly the way that you thought about it, but dwelling on it doesn't do you any good either. So, it makes everybody kind of uptight. And we in the Illuminati, well, we're all about people relaxing, So to that end, we would recommend, to help us out, to help you out, that, when you walk outside your house, your apartment, your tent, wherever you happen to dwell, and you look up there in the sky and you see those chemtrails blazing up there, well, we in the Illuminati suggest that you just relax and breathe deeply.